If you have heard about William Sasha Riley, then your curiosity about the rumors that Donald Trump wears diapers has quite likely been reignited. I'm going to examine these rumors and the timeline around Sasha Riley's allegations, and I'm going to reveal some pretty interesting alignments. The rumor that Donald Trump wears diapers has circulated widely for years. In fact, the entire notion is pretty much just accepted as fact by both his detractors and his supporters. His critics often refer to Donald Trump as dumpy pants, Shitler, and Von Schitz's pants, while his enthusiastic base will loudly proclaim real men wear diapers or diapers over Dems. While neither Donald Trump nor anyone in his official circle have divulged any information or made any statements about Trump's alleged incontinence, Noel Casler, a comedian who worked as a talent wrangler on Celebrity Apprentice for 6 seasons, has publicly alleged on numerous occasions that Donald Trump wore diapers during the production of the show. Take a look at this.
The diapers is not a joke. It depends. Diaper Don is trending, but it's based in reality. He would often soil himself on The Apprentice set. He's incontinent from all the speed, all the Adderall he does, the cocaine that he's done for decades. All that stuff has a laxative, and it has an effect on your bowels, and his are uncontrollable. He's worn diapers since probably the 90s, but I saw it firsthand in the 2000s on Celebrity Apprentice in late 2000s, and we'd have to stop the show and change him, and that was Keith Schiller's job. He would take him off set, he would wipe him down. Our nickname for Keith was Wet Wipes. It's not a joke. It's happened several times. And you've seen it happen while he's in office. You've seen he was in the Oval Office with Erdogan, and you could clearly hear him sort of evacuating himself. He did it in front of Senator Feinstein, Dianne Feinstein, at a press conference. So he does it, and he almost sits there like and unaware of it, And one time I saw Ivanka have to go kind of whisper in his ear, and then Keith came and took him off stage. He'll also do it in a rage, and this is where it gets really drug related. He'll start to freak out. One time there was the word arbitrage on a cue card, and he started screaming that the script department was setting him up. You're setting me up, and he just freaked out, and then very loudly evacuated his bowels, and you could smell it, and the guy who was holding the boom mic, was tearing up. So that's where the nickname, the SHIT show came from. That was the crew nickname for Celebrity Apprentice. So when you hear Diaper Don, it's not a joke. He tries to hide it. I'll give you one more fact. If you look up the video of him when he was doing the WWF thing, he tackles a guy on the ground outside of the ring, and you can clearly see the outline of the Depends in his pants. And that was back in the early 90s. So he's lost control of his bowels. He's lost control of his brain. That's who he is, Diaper Don.
As you just heard, Mr. Casler mentioned a staged WWF fight, which I am assuming is the one illustrated in the following short clip.
It's Trump, the thumper.
I think you can probably see what Mr. Casler is talking about. To summarize, Noel Casler has claimed that Donald Trump is profoundly incontinent due to what he believes to be past stimulant abuse, including Adderall, speed, and cocaine. And as a result, Donald Trump would wear both adult diapers and a girdle. Casler also alleged that Trump would sometimes soil himself on set after flying into a rage. Casler began making these claims around 2019-2020, breaking a non-disclosure agreement in order to do so. A key argument often cited by those who believe Casler's claims of Trump's incontinence is the fact that Donald Trump has never sued Casler for defamation, despite Donald Trump's well-established history of filing lawsuits over similar matters. Fast forward to January of 2026, and we see allegations exploding on social media that have completely changed the entire tone and context of the Donald Trump diaper debate, changing the discussion from a topic of sarcastic ridicule to an issue rife with the very darkest of implications. You see, a set of interviews featuring an individual by the name of William Sasha Riley started to go viral over the past couple of weeks. And the story that Sasha tells suggests what may be a very different explanation for Donald Trump's alleged incontinence. I'm going to play a brief excerpt from the first of 6 interviews conducted between Lisa Noel Volding and William Sasha Riley, originally posted on Lisa Volding's Substack account. I must warn you, however, that the content of this excerpt is both highly graphic and very disturbing.
And at one point, I kind of acquiesced to whatever sexual things that he wanted to do. But at some point, he wanted me to have sex with him. So he laid down on his stomach, and there was a wooden tent stake that was in the room. And I had been eyeballing it as a weapon. And what I did was put the condom on the wooden tent stake, put it inside of him, and I kicked it as hard as I could. And that's why he had to get life flighted out, because I ripped him open. That's sweet.
As you can probably deduce, the account that Sasha Riley tells suggests what might be an entirely different explanation for Donald Trump's alleged incontinence. But it is also one that would be medically verifiable, if those medical records were available. Now, I'm certainly not a medical doctor, but I did pose a simple query to Google AI. I asked, what is more likely to be the cause of permanent fecal incontinence? A traumatic injury to the colorectal system or prolonged use of Adderall, speed, or cocaine? Here is the response I got from Google's AI overview. A traumatic injury to the colorectal system is far more likely to be the cause of permanent fecal incontinence than the prolonged use of Adderall, speed, amphetamines, or cocaine. While stimulants can cause acute gastrointestinal distress or severe temporary issues, direct traumatic damage to the anal sphincters or the nerves governing them is a primary recognized cause of long-term permanent fecal incontinence. So then this is the point where we need to start paying very close attention not only to Sasha Riley's account of what allegedly transpired between Sasha and Donald Trump at that farmhouse back in the mid-1980s, but also to timelines. Given the timeline, we can deduce that the alleged injury to Donald Trump's colorectal system occurred at some point in 1985 or 1986. Right around when William Sasha Riley was 12 to 13 years old. Naturally, everyone is curious about Donald Trump's medical records from that period of time. Now, the man who served as Donald Trump's personal physician during the time when the injury with the tent stake allegedly occurred was Dr. Harold Bornstein. And yes, Dr. Bornstein did indeed have a specialist in both internal medicine and gastroenterology. Dr. Bornstein's medical practice identified him as a gastroenterologist, not as a family physician. However, this is the part that threw me for a while. You see, it is widely reported that Dr. Bornstein served as Donald Trump's personal physician from 1980 until 2017. That timeline just didn't add up. It seemed highly coincidental that Donald Trump's personal physician just happened to have a specialist in gastroenterology. Yet, the 1980 starting date was 5 to 6 years before the traumatic injury is alleged to have occurred. The 1980 starting date was problematic, but as someone who has performed research for decades, I was well aware of the fact that an incorrect assertion or attribution can proliferate far and wide over the internet. You just need one source to get it wrong, and the incorrect claim will get repeated, and then it will become reinforced by the fact that it is so often repeated. So I kept looking. I found where the 1980 starting date came from. It came from the very letter that Dr. Bornstein wrote in 2015, attesting to Trump's astonishingly excellent health. That was the infamous letter that included the oft-quoted line, "If elected, Mr. Trump, I can state unequivocally, will be the healthiest individual ever elected to the presidency." Let me ask you this. Does that braggadocious, hyperbolic writing style sound familiar to you? If you're thinking that sounds exactly like something Donald Trump would say, well, you're probably right. In May of 2018, CNN reporters coaxed an admission out of Dr. Bornstein. Dr. Bornstein said this of Donald Trump. He dictated that whole letter. I didn't write that letter. In that now infamous letter, Donald Trump appears to have not only misled the public about the state of his astonishingly excellent health, he also seems to have misled the public about the timeline for when he started as Dr. Bornstein's patient. The letter starts off, "I have been the personal physician of Mr. Donald J. Trump since 1980. The letter also states that Trump's previous physician was Harold Bornstein's father, Dr. Jacob Bornstein. It goes on to say that, over the past 39 years, I am pleased to report that Mr. Trump has had no significant medical problems. 39 years before 2015 was 1976. That means Trump would have started to see Dr. Jacob Bornstein, the gastroenterologist, when he was just 30 years old. That all seemed more than a little suspicious to me, so I kept looking around. Finally, I found clarification for when Donald Trump became Dr. Harold Bornstein's patient. Fortunately, this clarification comes directly from Dr. Bornstein himself. On September 1st of 2016, shortly after Dr. Bornstein wrote the highly controversial letter attesting to Donald Trump's astonishingly excellent health, Dr. Bornstein sat for a short, impromptu interview with reporters from CNN. The interview was unplanned, unscripted, and in the final moments of that interview, Dr. Bornstein let something slip that would become a critical piece of evidence today, an entire decade later. Dr. Bornstein provided a clear and unequivocal timeline for when Donald Trump became his patient. Now bear in mind that this interview occurred in 2016 as you listen carefully to what Dr. Bornstein says right here.
I grew up in Jamaica, New York. They lived across the street. My mother found him as a patient from a member of his golf club, and he stayed for 30 years.
And then, as he warned, his wife arrived.
You're done.
Stop it.
You're done. You're done. You're on private property, and we're going to call the police. We're going to call the police. I'm going to call the police.
Thank you.
I appreciate you, doctor.
Suddenly, the timeline fits perfectly. When William Sasha Riley was 13 years old, Sasha claims that in the process of being sexually abused by Donald Trump, Sasha inflicted a serious injury to Donald Trump's colorectal system, one that required Trump to be, and I quote, life-flighted out. That incident allegedly occurred in 1986. In 2016, Dr. Bornstein, in an unplanned interview, let slip the fact that Donald Trump had been his patient not for 39 years, and not even for 35 years for that matter, but for 30 years. 30 years prior to 2016 is 1986. the dates of the alleged injury and of Donald Trump, starting with Dr. Harold Bornstein, a gastroenterologist, line up perfectly. I also want to point out another critical piece of information that Dr. Harold Bornstein let slip in that impromptu interview. He clarified that he had worked with his father at their gastroenterology clinic for 35 years.
And the only thing I wanted to do in my life was practice with my father, which I managed to do for 35 years till his death in this office. Which I managed to do for 35 years till his death in this office.
He said this in the same interview wherein he said that Donald Trump had been his patient for 30 years, showing that Harold Bornstein was very clear in making the distinction between how long he had worked at the clinic and how long Donald Trump had been his patient. There was a 5 to 6 year difference. Dr. Bornstein was very clear on that point. 5 months after that interview, in February of 2017, Dr. Harold Bornstein's office was raided by Donald Trump's longtime bodyguard, Keith Schiller, who was also the White House director of Oval Office operations at that time. You may recall Noel Kassler mentioning Keith Schiller in his account of what occurred on the set of Celebrity Apprentice.
You know, and that was Keith Schiller's job. He would take him off set, he would wipe him down. Our nickname for Keith, wet wipes.
According to Dr. Bornstein, during the raid on his office, Schiller was accompanied by a Trump Organization lawyer and another large man who entered the office and took all of Donald Trump's medical files, including original reports and lab results. Bornstein described the encounter as a raid that left him feeling raped, frightened, and sad. He noted that the men were in his office for about 25 to 30 minutes, created chaos, and even told him to remove a photo of him and Donald Trump from his wall. Then White House Press Secretary Sarah Huckabee Sanders denied the event was a raid, characterizing it as standard operating procedure to have the White House medical unit take possession of a new president's records. I will let you know that retrieval of medical files from the personal physicians of new presidents is not any form of standard procedure, and this incident with Dr. Harold Bornstein in 2017 is the only known occasion of such an event occurring. 4 years after the raid on his office, Dr. Harold Bornstein would join a growing list of unfortunate individuals. Individuals who had the potential of providing highly incriminating evidence against Donald Trump, who then die suddenly and unexpectedly, often of apparent suicide. That list includes Jeffrey Epstein, Jean-Luc Brunel, Ivana Trump, Virginia Giuffre, and Dusty Ray Duke. Dr. Harold Bornstein, who had served as Donald Trump's personal physician for 3 decades, died suddenly and mysteriously on January 8, 2021. The cause of death has never been revealed.